times I've been crossed off the list and left for dead. So this ain't nothing new. Bounty hunters.
I've been hunting Riddick for 10 years.
He's the most dangerous man we've ever tracked.
The bounty's been doubled.
I've come to collect your head in a box, right here!
So yet again, we play for blood.
This is a man who sees in the dark. So watch out for surprise attacks.
What is it?
One down. 3 down. You get where I'm going with this.
Again!
Hold him down.
What is happening?
Time's up.
Yeah, let's cut him loose.
You're not afraid of the dark, are you?
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Geekfest Rants. My name is Carlos Perron, and today I have sitting next to me, and we are doing this from his bunker, Steve Avona. Say hi, Steve.
My man cave. Hi, Carlos.
That's right. Where we have recorded many of these shows down here.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, I wonder if anybody can tell when we're recording these shows where they're coming from. But
Oh, if they're in my basement or your house.
or my house or somebody else's house, who the heck knows? Or somebody's car. We've done a number of car episodes.
That's what we call guerrilla podcasting.
On the scene.
Yep.
Today we are going to be tackling what could be considered one of the final summer genre films or the beginning of the fall genre films because, you know, who the hell knows right now? I think technically is the fall because once you hit September, you're really in back to school weather and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of like an ending kind of film. And we're doing the name of the show? Riddick. We've been teasing it for a while.
Yes. Well, here's why I would say that it's not a summer film and it's a fall film, because I think that Universal consciously slotted it in September to keep it away from the competition. Mm-hmm. It really, in light of the numbers that this film has put up, I think that they would have been a hell of a lot worse if it had been up against anything of any consequence. So even August, I don't think would have been a good time to release it. So I think they made the smartest move that they could make, and the grosses are disappointing enough as it is, I think.
Yeah. This is definitely a spring or a fall film.
Yeah.
This is where you put this.
This is either a March or September.
Right.
And you see now with even March, Oblivion came out in March, and that was a big moneymaker. So almost maybe February.
And Oblivion is a very good film. Mm-hmm. But anyway, let's give everybody a little background on what Riddick's about. Other than the fact that most people might know that it's a Vin Diesel vehicle, but there is a little history behind it.
Yeah, well, this is third of a trilogy. And it's been 9 years since the last installment. So I think for a lot of people, yes, I don't think people be like, who the hell is this? Or what the hell is this? And I think that they really consciously made this a film that you could just jump right into without knowing any of the Riddick mythology, so to speak.
For the fans, they give you the little, tie-ins to where this, where we're at, where we left off with some of this other crap.
Yes.
And even if you don't care about that other crap, don't worry about it. It's a brand new story. Right. And to me, overall, it definitely feels like the original.
Absolutely.
Amped up.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say whatever you want. You could say, if you're feeling negative about it, you could say it's a ripoff of the original. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking positively, you could say it's an homage to the original. There's a lot that goes into why this film is what it is. Before we get into the plot, I think it's important to discuss the fact that after the Chronicles of Riddick, which came out in 2004 and did not do well, Universal was like, Goodbye.
We're done.
Pitch Black was a sort of cult hit. Very popular, sort of underground, buzzy kind of movie, and that kind of snuck up on everybody.
Video, Laserdisc, DVD, that kind of movie.
That kind of thing. So they, I think foolishly, I'm not saying it was foolish to make a sequel, but they really poured a lot of money into Chronicles of Riddick. And the problem, and Pitch Black is a very sort of,
Well, let's start with Pitch Black.
All right,
let's
sure.
give everybody a little background.
Sure.
'Cause since it's the first time we ever seen this. And the movie kind of drops
Just
you into
jumps
it.
into it,
You don't
yeah.
get a lot of backstory.
No.
You get a little bit as you progress, but tell us
Sprinkled.
about what it's about.
Well, the movie starts off with this ship, which has a kind of a motley crew of passengers, and the character Richard B. Riddick, played by Vin Diesel, is a prisoner. He's been captured by these bounty hunters, and what we know about him is he's a bad guy. He's a convict. He's a predator. He's a murderer.
And like everybody else in the ship, they're all in like cryo sleep.
Yes.
They're all
like
frozen.
Alien.
Yeah. I mean, you could say, okay, it rips off Alien, but it is a sci-fi genre staple of the cryo
Yeah,
sleep.
I wouldn't
You're
call
traveling
it ripping
so
off
far
of
that
anything.
you're traveling
Yeah.
so far that they got to put you to sleep or else you lose your
They
mind.
do that in 2001. So now it's been a long time since I saw Pitch Black. I don't quite remember why they landed on that planet.
Well, the ship, I believe, gets hit by a meteor or something.
Okay.
Some kind of a little tiny rock or something hits the ship to damage it enough where the captain, which is the girl, the female lead, has to start jettisoning different parts of the ship. And in the process, she's basically killing off a lot of these people because she's trying to save what's left of the ship by jettisoning the cargo and the people.
Right.
And that's immediately in the film sets up this whole conflict of her talking to either her other captain or her co-pilot of how could you do that? How could you just, it's your job and you're supposed to protect these people and you're just letting them go.
Right.
And it's a decision she makes that basically carries her through the rest of the film. And whatever's left of this ship that is not being destroyed by this, whatever, I think it was a meteor storm or something, that's what crashes. And that's what they are able to salvage and see who's alive, who survived this thing, from all these frozen people.
Right. And then what happens, you have the survivors. Riddick is one of the survivors. And it turns out that Riddick has this, I don't want to call it a power, but he has this ability to see in the dark.
Right.
He has this glow or this shine
his
to
eyes
his eyes.
shine kind of whitish.
Yes.
And I think during the day, he purposely
Yes,
wears
he wears these goggles.
shades because there's too much sunlight coming into him.
But at night, he's
fine.
Yeah, and he's like a total predator.
Right.
He can see in the dark and whatever. And the problem is there's this planet-wide eclipse coming that only happens, I don't know, once every 100 years or something.
Plot device.
Exposition, blah, blah, blah. And really, Riddick becomes the guy, because there are these creatures that come out when it's pitch black. And I thought they were really well created.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this before, and if you're a genre fan, which it's a contradiction, you should have seen this if you're a genre fan. To me, they kind of reminded me of the movie Tremors. These underground kind of...
Right, no eyes,
but big snapping,
Yes.
like lobster type of jaws with spidery kind of leg. Very, again, CGI, it's all... And it works because it's at night, so you can hide some of those effects.
Right.
But they just tear people to shreds, and whatever little survivors of that initial crash they had, it's little by little, one by one is getting picked off to the point where even the bounty hunter says, decides, okay, we got to let Riddick loose to help us because we're really getting in trouble here.
Yes. So, I mean, that's really, the remainder of the film is, Riddick.
10 little Indians, little by little. There's only a few of them left. And even now, which is important in this film, even the bounty hunter, at the end turns on some of the people there. And the captain, again, she's so guilt-ridden by the fact that she had to let go she had to sacrifice so many people so that the rest of them could live. She will not abandon Riddick either. And there's also a little boy or a little girl.
Well, it's a little girl.
It's a little girl, but we don't know that because he's got
our
a
old
crew
friend
cut.
Keith David Keith,
because I am done. I am done trying to figure out what's his name.
David Keith David. I don't know, but he's a genre staple, and he's one of our favorite guys.
He's like a religious.
He's an imam
type of leader.
Yeah, he's an Islamic religious leader.
And his flock is getting eaten up little by little.
Yes,
all these kids he has with him. But yeah, it comes down to the point where she could abandon everybody and save herself, but she decides to come back and try to help, I think, Riddick. to try to help them, and she dies in the process. And the bounty hunter who is supposed to help them, like I said, turns on them, and Riddick ends up having to kill him, or I think the creatures get him or something like that. But he has a choice to make, and I think he was like a drug addict too in the process. He was like shooting up stuff, like some of the medicines they found.
Oh, the bounty hunter.
He was shooting them up.
He was a bad guy.
So you could, you want to like him because you want him to be kind of like the leader type, but then the movie's set up in a way where the bad guy ends up being the leader type.
He's the anti-hero, Riddick.
And he and the imam and the
kid,
the one survivor girl,
they're
the only ones to get away. The captain dies, she dies, and that's the end of the movie. And you're like, okay, well, hey, we're done. Okay,
Yeah.
It was a nice little movie.
Yeah, so whoever thought that it would get a sequel, but 4 years later, Universal pumped a lot of money into the Chronicles of Riddick. And just the title sounds a little pretentious and overblown.
The 10th Commandment.
And you're like, okay. And I mean, I was excited because not only did I like Pitch Black, but I'm going to say it right here and now. I worship at the altar of Vin Diesel. I have a man crush, a totally heterosexual man crush on Vin Diesel. I love the Fast and the Furious movies, which we're not going to talk about, but I love them, and I love Triple X. So I was pretty excited for Chronicles, and then I was very disappointed by Chronicles.
Again, let's go a little bit over because I barely remember that one. There's a race of
the
weird people,
necromongers.
that are basically absorbing worlds, and they land there and they colonize and they take over. And okay, great, I get it. Somehow he goes and I guess defends a specific planet. And in the process of defending this specific planet, he has to beat the bad guys, obviously.
Right.
So he beats the meanest of the bad guys of these races. But in the process, by beating him, he becomes the leader now by default, I guess. It's the rules. It's almost like a Klingon thing. You have to kill them, and then you're the leader.
Right. And it has also to do with these prophecies, too. Riddick is a member of a race called the Furians. And the Furians supposedly are all but extinct. And he's the last or one of the last. And that's one of his big things is that he wants to find Furia. So Chronicles of Riddick sets up a lot of dense mythology.
A lot of mythology. Yep.
And I think a lot of people were just like, can't we just see him like killing people and fighting and
fighting monsters or something?
And this is not what Pitch Black was.
No.
And it had a good cast.
It wants to be epic.
Epic.
It wants
That's
to be
the
grand.
Perfect word. And I think they just went too far in the other direction for this character. And they brought in a great cast. They had Carl Urban, they had Judi Dench.
Oh yeah, top-notch actors.
Top-notch, but
great effects.
Yeah, but the movie felt so overblown, and it was long,
very political. Also,
yeah,
the machinations of how these
and
worlds...
with certain other movies that we like. That political stuff gets a little.
You mean like Dune?
Yeah, just like Dune.
yeah, Dune. Yeah, we're not talking about Phantom Menace.
Starship Troopers. So the movie was really a mess. I watched it recently just to kind of prime myself for Riddick because I knew what to expect. I wasn't as like, ugh, but it just feels like tonally and structurally that this was a complete and utter mistake. And as you rightly pointed out, its aspirations were so far beyond what the original film was, and it didn't require that.
Right. I think they were thinking franchise. Here we go. We're laying the base for this franchise, but they forgot the fact that if they want to lay the base for a franchise, they already have a base.
Yes.
And the base is very different than this movie.
Yes.
So,
and I think that, we'll get to this later on in the program, but I don't think that Vin Diesel and David Twohy have sort of given up on that stuff. I think that Riddick, the film Riddick that just came out, was their attempt to like jumpstart the franchise, put the paddles on, get it back on track, and then do what they wanted to do after Chronicles. Now, whether that ever happens remains to be seen, but Chronicles made like $57 million. And domestically...
I think what they all dream about is, I want an Indiana Jones. I want a James Bond. I want a guy that I can give you a movie about him, and it's the different adventures of this individual.
Right.
But you can't just shift gears like they did so...
radically.
It was like, whoa, this is a different type of film now.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's the star, but the film was bigger than him.
Right.
It wasn't like this is a movie about Riddick. No, this is a movie that Riddick's in.
Right. And I'll be honest, as much as I like Vin Diesel, I think he has a limited range. And I don't think that this film, you put him up against people like Judi Dench and you're like, no. You needed David Keith and those guys.
Right, or unknowns, complete unknowns. You can't have him butt heads with heavy hitters.
He's not going to throw down well with them. His weaknesses will come out. But he plays the character of Riddick. I like the character.
Well, here's the thing. There's a mystery to Riddick. And so far, they haven't exploited it too much.
Right.
It's the Boba Fett syndrome. If you don't give me too much information,
there's
an
much
aura.
cooler.
There's an aura around this character.
Right.
So this movie, like we said before, it completely tanked. Yep. It didn't make any money. I mean, it made some money, but not the kind of money they wanted.
No.
And then the film went away for a very long time. And all of a sudden, there were rumblings of Vin Diesel wanting to resurrect this thing.
Now, I have to give him credit because he basically almost willed this movie into existence, because I follow him on Facebook and he was always talking about it.
Stalker.
And I'm like, well, he's got like over 1 million followers.
There's
Anyway,
a fine line between following and stalking.
so he would keep talking about it as if this was going to happen. And a funny thing happened between Chronicles of Riddick and this film. The Fast and Furious franchise was resurrected.
And it exploded.
It exploded. And Diesel, whose career was kind of on life support at the time, he wasn't doing that well. I mean, he was doing...
He was kind of running on fumes.
Babylon AD and, the pacifier, that Disney thing. So he really, he needed something. And he agreed... What he agreed to do was, when Universal was putting in the third Fast and the Furious film together, Tokyo Drift, which he was not in, they realized that they had kind of a flop on their hands, but they didn't want to let go of this franchise. So they said to him, well, you do a cameo at the end, and then the next film, your character is back, Paul Walker's back, blah, 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 and we'll... So he said, all right, I'll do it. You don't have to pay me. Give me the rights to Riddick. I own Riddick. So they said,
wow.
Okay.
It's a piece of crap.
Yeah, you want it? It's like George Lucas. You want this?
Sure.
You want the merchandising?
Take the rights to the toy.
Oh, no, it's fine. So that's what he did. And basically, he and David Twohy, I mean, the reason that it took so long to get Riddick off the ground is it was basically an independent film. They used Vin Diesel mortgaged or remortgaged his house to get this movie off the ground. Universal, it's ironic that Universal is distributing the film. They did the first two, but it's like a Fox thing with Star Wars. They just decided to pick up the rights to
just
distribute
jump in and do it, and then
and of course then they can box up the 3 movies together in Blu-ray and whatever. So that's what happened. They wrote a script, and as Diesel is doing more and more of these Fast and Furious movies, his popularity is growing, and they're getting more investors. They're getting overseas distribution, and then Universal comes in. So they shot the movie very cheaply, and I have to say, I think it shows to a certain extent. Not terribly.
To me, it looked better than the original technology-wise and the look of it. But yeah, it doesn't look like a studio super backed up film.
I kind of feel like, we were talking about the creatures in Pitch Black, and I think the creatures in Riddick look a little...
Really? I didn't mind.
Yeah, I like, maybe it was just the design, not so much. But I did feel like that we were watching a movie shot on green screen. And again, you've seen that with
the 300
Star Wars and 300. But it didn't look terrible.
Well, let's do something. Before we start analyzing the actual film, let's talk about what's this plot about and how is it a little more similar?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
They do give you already... Now, if you wanted to go online and get a little bit of a bridge as to what's happened before, they put out a little like a motion comic or something like that.
Yeah, like a motion animated thing, which...
Tell us what happens there. Do you remember?
Sort of.
It's him. He's the leader of the
necromongers.
The necromongers. And you can tell that even though he's the leader and he still wants to go and look around for his own people or whatever... everybody's plotting around it. They all want to get rid of him, and there's a final thing where they try to kill him, and he
defends himself.
He survives, but the guy, Carl Urban,
Urban's character,
he says, all right, we found the planet. I want you to go take a look at it because I think this is the planet you've been looking for.
Right.
They go down there and they betray him.
Right.
And that's it. That's how
Which also plays out in the movie.
Right. They show you as a flashback. So they give you a little bit in the motion comic, and they give you a little in the movie. Now, the movie itself, it's him living in this planet, which again, if you've never seen these films, it could kind of work because it's like it's a guy and you're trying to find out what's he doing in this planet by himself, living in this really hostile environment. But then you do get that flashback of, he's betrayed by this group. Right. They bring him there. He realizes it's not the right planet. And they try to kill him. And, he takes out a few of them, but then they hurt him and he falls into like a ravine or something.
Yes.
And now you know where you're at.
Right.
Now you're by himself.
Now you're at ground zero.
It's like Castaway. He's all alone in this planet now.
And he realizes that the only way he's going to get off this planet is by activating some kind of a beacon. He puts his face in front of this view screen, and it says, okay, this is Riddick. There's still a bounty on him. So he attracts not one, but two ships of bounty hunters.
Again, it's an uninhabited planet, but it looks like they have these it's almost like a little cabin, if you will, in the woods. It's not the woods. It's like a deserted planet. But it's a place where, if you need to call for help or if previous bounty hunters were there.
Right.
So it's like a rest station.
Like a substation.
Like a communications depot, that type of thing. But the planet's completely hostile. All kinds of weird creatures. He actually befriends this weird dog type of thing that respects him after he tries to kill him, and he figures out how to kill these weird creatures. And he's aware now that there are these weird creatures, almost like giant scorpion type of things in the caves. And he kind of figures out, and he himself injects himself with this poison that they have to kind of get used to it, to kind of
build up an immunity.
Exactly, just like the dog. He tries it with the dog first. It's like poor little dog.
Yeah,
the little dog is like a little hyena almost.
Yes,
it's sort of weird.
Yes.
But then he, like you said, the only way out is you're going to have to call for help, and calling for help means bringing in the bounty hunters.
Yeah.
So tell us about these two different groups.
Right, these two different groups show up, and one is led by this guy with like a French kind of accent.
Yeah.
And
they're like mercenary, very like a pirate almost.
Ragtag group. Yeah. And he's very annoying, that guy. I really did not like him. And they have some cool characters. A
lot of B actors.
Dave Bautista, who is going to be...
You've seen them in Guardians?
He's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think in part of his group is Bokeem Woodbine, who...
He's been in a lot
of genre stuff. He played Blade on the Blade TV series, amongst other things. But he's a good actor. Then you have this other group where the captain has a tie-in to the original.
Right. Now, this other group is a more organized, militaristic... Yes. Are they government, like official?
They almost seem like they're official.
Right. It's the difference between your bounty hunter and your sheriff. We're here officially on behalf of the government, and we're here just collecting a bounty. So there's two different groups.
Right. And in that group, you have Katie Sackhoff as Doll from, she was from Battlestar, so all the guys are happy to see her. And I think that's the only reason she got cast. And she's the only woman in the whole movie. And I think she does a good job.
No, yeah. The leader of this group has a connection.
He has a connection.
To the first film.
And now, again, if you're a fan... It's sort of an Easter egg for fans. Again, if you...
It's more than an Easter egg because they talk about it. There's a thing going on here.
Yeah, I mean, but maybe that's not the right word for it. But his name is Johns, and that was the name of the bad guy
the bounty hunter that was guarding him in the first film.
And it turns out that he is his father.
Right. And he wants to know what happened to his son because he knows that his son died. He wants to know, did Riddick kill him? Did somebody else kill him? But he's kind of there to kind of take revenge on him, basically.
Yeah, he's not happy. He's not there to have a party with Riddick. It comes down to Riddick knows he has to get off the planet, and he calls a ship to basically, he's going to take everybody out or whoever. And they realize very quickly that they're going to have to kind of grudgingly work together because they underestimate how dangerous he is.
Yeah, and Riddick steals like the power cells from both of their ship from the
so
ships.
They have to work together.
It's like, okay, you get me out of here and I'll give you the power cell. But in the process, they're already starting to get attacked by these creatures. So it's back to that formula of the first film. Little by little, they're killing each other. The creatures are killing them and they have to work together. He has to work with them. They all have to work together. And we're back to that scenario of there's only a few people left and whatever's left, it's who's going to leave this planet.
Yeah, I mean, really, it kind of plays out like Pitch Black after that.
It's action, action, fighting,
Yeah,
fighting, action, action.
right.
You have to get to a remote place to find this Johnson rod and get this
Yeah.
Johnson rod and bring it back to the ship to make it work. And,
The Havishram. Yeah.
and sooner or later, there's a confrontation, you know, with obviously the lead mercenary. He's a complete dirtbag.
Yeah. There's betrayal.
Right. The military guy, you know, he has to get to
his
Riddick
answers,
and find out what happened to his son. And
Right.
Riddick tells him, you know, your son was a piece of crap.
Yep.
And he was a drug addict. And
Yep.
he turned on everybody. And
Yeah.
and by the end of the film, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember too well, but they eventually do get away
Yes.
on 2 ships.
Yes. Riddick has his own ship, and Johns and Dahl get off on their ship.
So they let him.
They let him go.
Because he saved them, basically.
Right,
And it's
right.
kind of like Now, it's funny because at the end, I was like, because there was a little bit of a flirtation thing going on between Riddick
Yeah, I
and
thought that they
I
might-
was like, is she in his ship or is she in the other guy's ship? Whose ship is she in?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they show her. Yeah. But he makes it seem like Dahl is on the other ship
Right.
with his dialogue.
And they end it very similar to the other one. You don't know what happens next. I mean,
Yeah.
they're getting away, but what does that mean? Where is he
Yeah.
going next? And it's kind of like, okay, I guess that's the style.
Well, I think it ends much like Prometheus ended. I'm going to, honestly, I'm going to go and find my planet, you know, and I think that's really,
That's his motivation.
that's his motivation. And I don't think they have any other plan in mind. I think if by some miracle that this film, you know, spawns another sequel, that they also mentioned, Vin Diesel has mentioned, this was something they created for Chronicles of Riddick, the Underverse. Which I don't know if Furia is there in the Underverse or whatever.
Or is this a completely different genre he's getting mixed into?
No, this is this is part of the mythology of Chronicles.
Within
of Riddick.
Chronicles.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's nothing that they're creating specially for. This is all stuff that was established in Chronicles, which is again what I like. Really, you're going back to that?
No.
You know, I mean, as we're talking right now, the film has been out for about 2 weeks and it's made about 32 million domestic.
Well,
Now,
the first week it was number 1 at least, but it had no competition.
but now it's been creamed every week since. And
Well, let's see what happens in the foreign market. Again,
well,
this
yeah.
is the perfect film for the foreign market. You have foreign sounding actors and, you know, the
Yeah.
French guy, so that will play good in Europe, I'm sure.
And I think the budget was pretty low, so I don't think, you know, in order to make back their
budget
money,
to profit ratio is a lot bigger, probably.
Yes, and Vin Diesel can just sit on his Fast and Furious money, and you know he might be, and now he's confirmed to do a voice in Guardians of the Galaxy, but that there's still this rumor that he may play a role in a future Marvel film. So he's good. I think if he wants to make Riddick sort of his pet project and say, well, you know, we made it.
It's a Schindler's List.
Yeah, you know, I can. You know, it's like an actor who does a big budget action films and then takes no money to do independent films.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it's completely possible for him to just say, you know what, I'm going to finish off this character. I'm going to end this series the way I want it to end. And if it makes a couple of bucks, it makes a couple of bucks. You know, it's not going to hurt me because I'm making sick money with everything else I'm doing. So who knows?
Yeah, like you said, if he can keep the budget low,
Yeah.
it could be an ongoing type of thing for him. And
Yeah.
I personally, I mean, I liked it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you, oh, this is the best film ever in
No.
the world. But for the genre, for what it is, when you compare it to the first one, not the second one, it's a good continuation of the character.
Yeah.
You're not getting blown away in terms of, oh my God, I can't believe they did this.
Right.
It's just more. You like,
Yeah.
I just want more of this.
And
you
that's
know?
why I kind of think that's where they should go with this character. I think it was a solid B film.
Yeah. But you mean a B film in the terms of what we like to call B films, or you're actually grading it
No,
as
I'm talking
as
about
A, B,
like
C.
what we call B film.
A solid B film.
A
You're
solid
right.
B
Exactly.
film, you
It's
know.
the type of thing that 30 years ago they would be replaying on HBO every afternoon,
Oh,
and we'd
yeah.
be like, "Oh, let's just
watch this again." You know, and it's kind of like comfort food. It's not
Yes.
Aliens or some other sci-fi classic. It's just something that's well done and
It's action sci-fi. There's
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to think too much.
No.
There's enough sci-fi technical stuff, but it's a sequence of action. I don't even want to say horror scenes. It's action thriller.
violent. Yeah, it's R-rated.
Violent,
yeah. Which I think was also a smart move. Chronicles was PG-13. You know, original Pitch Black was R, and you know, these movies should be R.
And I'll bet you when this goes on DVD, they'll probably give you a director's cut or
which
something
is
like that,
fine.
which they always do.
And look, Vin Diesel, I think, is an acquired taste. I don't think everybody necessarily buys into him, his whole persona. I mean, all his characters are kind of like Vin Diesel. You know, Riddick.
Range. He doesn't have much range.
It's the range. So
it's almost like a Schwarzenegger thing.
Yes.
You put him in the right vehicle,
or Stallone,
and he can get away with a lot more than he would on a comedy or something more dramatic.
Exactly. So if you buy into him, you're gonna like it. Mm-hmm. And Riddick, it's like Stallone. He has Rocky and Rambo. They're kind of, Rambo is you could say the same thing. Like Vin Diesel has Fast and Furious, has Dom Toretto, and he has Riddick. Toretto is his Rocky, Riddick is his Rambo. Right. And that's about as far as he can go.
If he's going to play something out of character, he has to keep it very short and small. Yeah. He can't be the lead. That's why Saving Private Ryan, he was perfect.
Yes.
Because he's not being someone different. He's the big tough guy, kind of a little dumb kind of guy.
Yeah.
But it worked because he wasn't the star of the film.
Right.
It wasn't Saving Private Riddick.
Right. And yes, he had a small role, and that was...
It filled what needed.
Filled what he was...
Right.
His personality filled that role.
Mm-hmm. But if you do an entire movie about that character, I don't know if I really want to see that.
No.
So I would like to say, as far as I'm concerned, and I think you the same, keep them coming.
Yeah,
it's not.
They're
not reinventing the light bulb here.
No,
but keep them going. Hopefully, it'll be on DVD soon, and I do look forward to watching a director's cut. I like to see extra scenes every now and then. What the
Absolutely.
heck?
Yeah, no, I'd like to get a Blu-ray with the whole 9 yards.
Plus, I don't think they went nuts in terms of 3D or anything, right?
No, I don't think they could afford any of that
it's
stuff.
Independent.
Yeah, I'm not. I really, honestly, I would like to look up what the actual budget was. Because they actually had a point where they had to stop filming because they ran out of money. And the studio shut them down because, when I say studio, I mean the actual studio that they were filming in shut them down because they weren't paying their bills.
Turn off the lights?
Kinda. So yeah, so it was a little tough. And he didn't make a big paycheck.
Oh, I'm sure this is kind of like he probably eats the paycheck because he's more of a producer in this type of thing. I'm also sure that because you don't have big studio fundings, the second film I remember, because the studio was behind it huge, they've had merchandise they had action figures, this and that, like McFarlane types. This one, again, we're going back to basics. There's really no merchandising. If you're lucky, you might find a soundtrack out there, but don't expect too much to bring home.
Right, exactly.
Well, I would like to thank Steve for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Steve, and hope to see you guys here soon on our next Geekfest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
They say most of your brain shuts down in cryosleep, all but the animal side. Guess that's why I'm still awake.
If the man is gone, he's gone. Why should he bother us?
Maybe to take what you got. Maybe to work your nerves.
Is he really that dangerous?
Only around humans.
Zeke!
All you people are so scared of me. But it ain't me you gotta worry about now.
Whatever it is, it got Zeke and it nearly got me.
They seem to stick to darkness. So if we stick to daylight, we should be all right.
A total eclipse. We're gonna lose everybody out here.
You're not afraid of the dark, are you?
I have a man crush, a totally heterosexual man crush on Vin Diesel.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
We're done.
We're done.